My name is Miranda. I am 22 years old. I live with my grandmother in a small house in our village. I lost my mother and father when I was 10. They died in a car accident, and from that day on, I lived with my grandmother. She raised me like her own child. She gave me food, clothes, and a safe home. She worked in the fields even when she was tired, and she cooked warm meals for me every day. She protected me from danger, and she taught me how to live a simple life. I respected her very much, but I was young, and sometimes I did not listen. I liked my friends, and I liked to go out. I laughed a lot and stayed out late. My grandmother told me to be careful, but I thought she worried too much. She often said that life in the village could be hard for a young girl. She wanted me to have a safe future. She wanted me to have a husband who would care for me the way she did. She believed a good husband was like a safe home. So she arranged my marriage to a man from our village. His name was Simon. Simon was a simple man. He worked as a carpenter. He made tables, chairs, and small wooden toys. He had strong hands and a soft heart. He spoke kindly and never raised his voice. When I first met him, I felt shy. I did not know much about him, but my grandmother trusted him. She said he was honest and hard-working, and that was enough for her. Soon we got married. The wedding was small but warm. My grandmother cried with joy. Simon held my hand gently and promised to take care of me. After the wedding, we moved into a small house near the edge of the village. Our life together was quiet. Every morning, Simon woke up early and went to his workshop. I cooked breakfast and swept the floor. In the evenings, we ate simple meals. Simon always asked how my day was. He looked at me with soft eyes, full of care. I felt safe with him. At night, we sat outside and watched the stars. Life felt slow but peaceful. For 2 years, we lived like this. Simon loved me deeply, and slowly I began to feel the same for him. He made me feel important. He never let me feel alone. But one day, everything started to change. Simon came home with news. He had found a new job in the city. The job paid more money than anything in the village. It was a chance to build a better life. I felt excited. My heart beat fast. I dreamed about tall buildings, bright lights, and beautiful clothes. I imagined a new life where everything felt big and modern. Simon was happy too. He wanted to earn more so we could save for our future. He said the city would give us new hope. So we moved to New York. It was my first time in such a big place. The streets were loud. Cars moved everywhere. People walked fast. They wore nice clothes and carried big bags. The buildings looked like they touched the sky. Simon rented a small apartment for us. It had 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, and a window that looked out onto the street. It was not fancy, but Simon said it was enough for us. Every morning, Simon left for work. He worked long hours in a furniture store. I cleaned the apartment and cooked dinner. In the evenings, we watched TV together. At first, I felt happy. I felt like I was living in a dream. But after some months, the city began to change me. I saw things I had never seen before. I met new people. I made friends who were rich. Their clothes were shiny and new. Their faces always looked perfect. Their nails were long, and their shoes had bright colors. They invited me to their parties. The first party I went to felt like a new world. The lights were bright. The music was loud. People danced with joy and laughed all night. They wore clothes that looked beautiful and expensive. I looked at my own simple dress and felt small. I felt like a child in a place meant for adults. When I came home, I felt a deep wish inside me. I wanted to look like those women. I wanted dresses that moved like soft water. I wanted shoes that shined under the lights. I wanted to feel special. The next day, I asked Simon for a fancy dress. I told him I wanted to look like my friends. The dress cost $1,800. It was more money than we ever spent on anything. Simon had saved that money for years. He wanted to open a small workshop of his own one day, but he did not say no. He did not even think twice. He smiled and said, "If it makes you happy, I will buy it." When he gave me the dress, he looked proud. I felt loved. But I also felt greedy. Once I had one dress, I wanted more. I wanted gold earrings. I wanted a necklace. I wanted bags like the rich women had. Simon said he would try his best. He worked double shifts to get more money, but the city was expensive. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a month. Simon came home tired every night, and I could see the worry in his eyes. But I did not stop asking for more. My mind was full of parties, loud music, and shiny things. Slowly, we began to drift apart. Simon worked all day and came home late. I spent my nights at parties. I danced. I drank wine. I laughed with my new friends. And when Simon came home, he needed me. He needed my care and my warm words, but I was never there. I never saw the pain in his eyes when he came home to an empty apartment. I never saw how he sat alone at the table, waiting for me. His heart was growing tired, but I was blind to it. One evening, my life changed again. I met Pete at a club. He wore an expensive suit. He smelled like sweet perfume. He had a smile that made me feel important. When he spoke, his voice sounded smooth. He said I looked beautiful. No one had said that to me in a long time. We danced together, and he held my waist gently. I felt warm near him. My heart beat fast. I felt like I belonged to this new world. Pete began to take me out often. He drove a shiny car. He brought me to restaurants with tall windows and soft lights. He paid for everything. He gave me money. He said I deserved nice things. With him, I felt rich. I felt free. I forgot about Simon. His love felt far away, like a dream I once had but no longer wanted. After some months, I made my choice. I packed my new clothes and put them in a big suitcase. I took a piece of paper and wrote a letter for Simon. I told him I was sorry. I told him I could not live a simple life. I told him I needed more than he could give me. When I left the apartment, I did not look back. I walked into my new life with Pete and left Simon behind. But the story was not over. It had only begun. Before I continue rest of the story, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. Life with Pete felt exciting in the beginning. He took me to new places every week. We went to restaurants with soft lights and clean tables. We sat near big windows and looked at the city below us. He ordered food I had never tasted before. He told stories about people he met and places he wanted to visit. I listened to him and smiled. I thought my life had finally become perfect. I woke up late, wore new dresses, and spent long hours in front of the mirror. I didn't think about Simon. I didn't think about my grandmother. I only thought about myself. Pete took me to many parties. There were lights, drinks, music, and loud voices. People laughed all night. They held glasses and danced without care. I felt like I belonged there. I felt important when Pete held my hand. I told myself this was the life I always wanted. I told myself I had made the right choice. For 1 full year, I lived like this. I never cooked. I never cleaned. I never cried. I only lived for fun. But the truth slowly came to me. It started with a pain in my chest. At first, it was small. I felt it in the mornings, but it went away after some hours. I told myself it was nothing. I kept going out. I kept smiling. I kept dancing. I did not want to stop my new life. But one morning, the pain was sharp. It ran through my chest like a knife. My breath was short. My hands shook. I fell onto the bed and waited for it to stop, but it did not stop. I was scared. I asked Pete to drive me to the hospital. His face looked cold, but he drove me. The hospital was bright and white. The smell of medicine was everywhere. I lay on a bed while the doctor looked at some papers. His face changed. His mouth became tight. He sat down beside me and spoke slowly. He told me I had cancer in my chest. He said it was very bad. He said it had spread to many parts of my body. My world suddenly felt dark. My hands felt cold. I stared at the wall, trying to understand his words. I could not speak. I felt like the ground under me had opened. I was admitted to the hospital that same day. Pete came to visit me for some weeks. He brought flowers. He smiled at me, but the smile looked weak. He stayed for only a few minutes each time. He kept looking at the door as if he wanted to leave. After some time, he visited less and less. One day, I woke up and he was gone. On the table beside my bed, there was a letter and an envelope full of cash. I opened the letter with shaking hands. It said he was sorry to leave me. He said my health was getting worse. He said the doctor told him my chance of living was very low. He wrote that he could not sit beside me. He said he still had a life to live. He hoped the money was enough for me. He asked me to forgive him. My heart broke. The letter felt like ice in my hands. I read it again and again. It was written in the same way I once wrote to Simon. All the words I had written came back to me. My own cold goodbye now stood before me with new meaning. I cried until my pillow was wet. I threw the money across the room. I tried to stand, but the pain in my chest pushed me back. I covered my face and cried again. I cried for what I had done. I cried for the man I had left. I cried for the choices I made. I cried because I felt alone. I cried because I was scared to die. Then I picked up the phone. I called my grandmother. My voice shook as I told her everything. I told her about Pete. I told her about the money. I told her she had been right about Simon. I cried into the phone. I told her I made a big mistake. My grandmother did not shout. She did not blame me. She only said she was coming right away. Hours later, the hospital door opened. My grandmother walked in with her small steps. Behind her stood Simon. My heart stopped. My breath felt thin. I could not speak. The two people I had hurt most were now in my room. My grandmother came to me first. She touched my hair. She said she was there now. Simon stood near the door. His eyes were wet. He looked tired. He looked older. But he also looked gentle, like before. From that day on, they never left my side. My grandmother stayed all day. She sat beside my bed and told me stories from our village. She rubbed my hand when the pain became strong. Simon worked long hours, but every night he came to the hospital. He bought me warm soup. He cleaned my hair. He held my hand until I fell asleep. Some nights he looked so tired I thought he might fall from his chair. But he stayed. He stayed every night. One night, I woke up and saw Simon sitting beside me. His head was down. His hands were on his face. I could see he had been crying. I spoke his name quietly. He lifted his head and looked at me. I said I was sorry. He took my hand. He told me he never stopped loving me. His voice broke. Tears ran down his face. I felt his pain and my own pain together. I cried too. He leaned closer and held me. I felt safe again for the first time in a long time. My grandmother stood at the door. She watched us with soft eyes. She wiped her tears and left the room quietly. She knew I needed this moment with Simon. She knew love was returning to us. She knew I was learning the truth now, even though it came late. Simon sold our small apartment in the city. He used the money to pay for my treatment. He told me not to worry. He told me my life was more important than any house. I did not know how to thank him. I felt both happy and sad. Happy because he still loved me. Sad because I had hurt him so deeply. The treatment was long and hard. Some days I could not move. Some days I cried from the pain. Some days I felt weak like a small leaf in strong wind. But Simon and my grandmother stayed. Their care felt like warm hands around my heart. Slowly, my body began to heal. The doctor was surprised. He said my health was improving. He said I could leave the hospital in a month if this continued. I felt hope again. A month later, the doctor told me I could go home. I looked at Simon and my grandmother. They smiled at me. They held my hands. I felt like I was waking from a long, dark dream. I had spent almost a year in that hospital, but now I was going home. I felt grateful. I felt alive. After I left the hospital, Simon took me to a small rented house outside the city. It was a quiet place with soft light and clean air. The house had 2 small rooms and an old table. It was simple, but it felt safe. My grandmother cooked soup in the kitchen. Simon opened the windows to let fresh air in. I sat on the bed and looked around. I felt like my life had started again. The first weeks were slow. My body was still weak, so I could not move much. Simon helped me sit outside in the sun. He brought me tea in the mornings. My grandmother cooked warm meals for me. She told me old stories from the village. I listened and felt calm. I had not felt calm in a long time. One afternoon, there was a knock on the door. It was a friend from the city. She came inside and sat down. Her face looked worried. She told me something I did not expect. She said Pete was not rich. His car was rented. His house was rented. Even his clothes were borrowed. He had only been in the city for a short job. When the job ended, he left. I listened in silence. I did not cry. I did not feel hurt. Instead, I felt free. It was strange, but I felt lighter. I thanked my friend. After she left, I sat on the sofa and breathed slowly. For the first time, I felt glad Pete had walked out of my life. After 1 month in the small house, Simon and I moved back to the village. My grandmother lived there alone, and she waited for us outside her home. When she saw us, she opened her arms. She hugged me tightly. She hugged Simon too. Her smile was warm, and her eyes were full of joy. Life in the village was simple again. Simon found work with an old friend. He made chairs and tables like before. He worked with wood all day. In the evenings, I waited for him. When he came home tired, I served him warm food. He ate slowly and smiled at me. I felt peace inside my heart. I helped my grandmother in the garden. I cooked simple meals. I washed clothes in the sun. I sat by the window and watched birds in the trees. Sometimes when I remembered the city, it felt far away, like a dream that no longer mattered. Months passed, and one morning I felt strange. I felt tired and sick. My grandmother told me to rest. Later, I went to the small clinic in the village. The nurse checked me and smiled. She told me I was not sick. She told me I was pregnant. I was going to have a baby. When I heard the news, tears filled my eyes. They were soft, happy tears. I walked home slowly, holding the news close to my heart. When I told Simon, he looked surprised at first. Then he smiled. A real smile. A smile that reached his eyes. He held my hands and said thank you again and again. My grandmother cried with joy and hugged us both. The months went by gently. My belly grew. Simon helped me walk when I was tired. My grandmother cooked healthy food for me. She talked to the baby and said kind words. I felt safe. I felt loved. Every evening the three of us sat on the porch. Simon rested beside me. My grandmother rocked slowly in her chair. The sky turned pink and the air cooled down. These quiet evenings felt like gifts. When the time came, I gave birth to a baby boy. He was small and soft. His hands were tiny. His eyes were bright. Simon held him close and cried quietly. My grandmother kissed him and called him a blessing. I held him in my arms and felt a deep love I had never felt before. Now all four of us live together in our simple home. Simon works with wood. My grandmother helps with the baby. I take care of the house and watch my son grow. At night we sit together and talk in soft voices. Our home is small, but it is full of peace. I look at my life now and I understand something clearly. True love is not money, lights, or loud parties. True love is the hand that stays with you when you are weak. True love is the voice that comes back when you have lost your way. I made many mistakes, but I was given a second chance. Simon wanted me even when I did not deserve it. And today, with my baby in my arms, I finally understand the meaning of real love. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and subscribe to English Medium Stories. Stay with us for more classic stories in easy English.